The call of the wall. The wind slithered across the endless stones of the Great Wall, whispering secrets only the ancient structure could remember. The moon cast a silver glow, stretching the wall's shadow across the rugged landscape. A lone traveler stood at its edge, his dark silhouette blending into the night. He had come not as a mere visitor, nor as a scholar, but as a seeker of something buried deep within its forgotten chambers. He exhaled slowly, his breath curling into the crisp night air. From beneath his cloak, he pulled out a brittle parchment, an old, hand-drawn map, marked with an unrecorded location along the wall. No history book mentioned it, no tour guide acknowledged its presence. Yet, the symbol scrawled on the map spoke of a place long erased from memory, a place where the stones were not meant to protect, but to imprison. His fingers brushed against the cold surface of the wall. The stone beneath his touch felt different, rougher, uneven, almost as if it had been scorched. He closed his eyes and listened. The wind had changed, no longer just a fleeting breeze but a voice, a whisper in a language long forgotten. The wall was watching him. He had heard the stories. They were always vague, told in hushed tones, workers who vanished within the foundations, soldiers who claimed to hear voices within the stones, a section of the wall erased from records as if it had never existed. And yet, here he stood, on the threshold of a truth buried deeper than history itself. The first wall, the Emperor's will. The traveler traced his fingers along an engraving worn by time. He knew this place was among the oldest sections, built over 2,200 years ago under the order of Emperor Qin Shi Huang. This was not merely a wall, it was a monument of sacrifice. Tens of thousands of laborers had died constructing it, their bodies entombed within the very stones that now stood before him. The legend whispered that those who perished never truly left. The wall had consumed them, their breath, their souls, their screams embedded in its foundation. It was said that when the wind blew just right, one could still hear them pleading for release. The traveler took a step forward, his boots crunching against the gravel. The air grew heavier, thick with something unseen. He placed his palm against the wall once more, and this time the stone vibrated beneath his touch, not from the wind, not from the cold, but from something within. A deep, guttural sound rumbled through the silence, like a groan escaping from beneath the surface. He pulled his hand back. His heartbeat quickened. For centuries, the wall had kept its secrets buried. But tonight, something was stirring. The traveler turned his gaze down the winding path ahead. The shadows seemed deeper, the air colder, as if the wall itself knew what he was about to uncover. And somewhere within the darkness, the whispers grew louder. Blood and stone. The traveler stepped forward, his breath steady despite the unease curling around his thoughts. The Great Wall had always been a marvel of human ambition, yet tonight, it felt like something else entirely. Not a shield, but a tomb. The parchment in his hand, brittle with age, detailed a place that should not exist. And yet, beneath his fingers, the wall trembled as if exhaling a breath it had held for centuries. A gust of wind howled through the cracks, carrying echoes of a forgotten past. Then, the world shifted. The present faded. The night dissolved into dawn. And suddenly, the traveler was no longer alone. The scholar's curse. The year was 214 BCE, and the wall was still in its infancy, stretching like a scar across the rugged land. Thousands of workers toiled beneath the unrelenting sun, their bodies broken, their fates sealed the moment they had been condemned to this place. Among them was a man whose hands were not made for labor, a scholar, sentenced for speaking against the emperor's will. He was called Wei Lian, a man who had once written of wisdom, now reduced to hauling stone. His crime had not been treason in the traditional sense. He had simply questioned why the wall was truly being built. At night, when the overseers dozed by their fires, he had listened to the whispers of the workers. Men had disappeared within the wall, not fled, not killed, but taken by something within the stone itself. Some said the wall needed more than mortar to hold its shape. Some claimed they could hear the cries of the lost echoing between the stones. Wei Lian had laughed at the superstition, until he saw it with his own eyes. The chamber beneath the wall. One evening, when the sky was bathed in dying light, a fellow worker stumbled upon a crevice, a narrow, jagged opening that led into the depths of the wall. The others whispered of curses and turned away. But Wei Lian, he stepped inside. Darkness swallowed him whole, but as his hands traced the damp, uneven surface of the walls, He knew this was no ordinary passage. Strange markings lined the interior, not of any known script, but ancient, inhuman. The air was thick, heavy, alive. Then he heard it, a sound like breathing, deep and slow, as if the wall itself had lungs. His pulse quickened. He turned back, but the exit was gone. Only stone remained. His screams went unheard. The next morning, his fellow workers found the passage sealed as if it had never existed. Wei Lian was gone, erased like ink wiped from parchment. But when the overseers counted their workers, they found no one missing. As if the wall had taken him and given something else in return. The traveler's awakening. The vision snapped away, and the traveler gasped, staggering backward. The past had not faded. It had pressed itself upon him, wrapping around his mind like a shroud. His fingers tightened around the parchment. The symbols from Wei Lian's time matched those scrawled on his ancient map. And now, he knew why he had come. Ahead, the wall stretched endlessly, a sleeping giant. But beneath it, something was waiting to wake. The forbidden chamber. The traveler's pulse pounded in his ears as he steadied himself against the cold stone. The vision of Wei Lian's fate still lingered in his mind, the weight of history pressing upon him like an unseen force. He knew now, this wall was more than a mere fortification. It was a graveyard, a prison, and perhaps something far worse. He took a slow breath, steadying his resolve. The parchment in his hand had led him this far, its faded symbols aligning with the engravings on the wall. A hidden passage lay ahead. Whether it had been built by men or something else, he did not know. But it was calling to him. The descent. With cautious steps, he moved along the wall, tracing his fingers over the uneven stone. Then, a shift. Beneath his palm, the surface felt different, not solid but hollow. His breath hitched. He pressed harder. A deep, resonant click. The ground trembled, dust cascading from the seams in the wall. And then, silence. A narrow opening yawned before him, revealing a stairway spiraling downward into darkness. The air that rushed out was thick, stagnant, untouched by time. He hesitated. Then, gripping his lantern tightly, he stepped inside. The unseen depths. The stone passage twisted downward, the air growing colder with each step. The lantern's glow flickered as if reluctant to illuminate what lay ahead. His footsteps echoed, swallowed instantly by the oppressive silence. Then the walls changed. At first, they were smooth, like any other section of the Great Wall. But as he ventured deeper, the stones became rougher, jagged, carved with symbols that pulsed faintly as his lantern passed. The markings were ancient, predating the wall itself. The realization sent a shiver through him. This place existed before the wall. And then he reached the door. A massive slab of stone, different from the rest. Darker. Burnt. As if something had once tried to escape from within and the wall had been built to hold it back. His fingers grazed the surface. It was warm. Breathing. Then, a whisper. Not the wind. Not the echoes of his own breath. Something inside. The voice in the dark. A gust of air rushed from beneath the door, snuffing out his lantern. Darkness swallowed him whole. And then, in the silence, a voice slithered through the air. You should not have come. A chill wrapped around him. He could feel it, not a presence, but 1,000 of them. Trapped. Waiting. Hungry. The traveler's mind screamed for him to run. But his feet would not move. The stone beneath his hands vibrated, the air thickening with something ancient, something that should have remained forgotten. Then, slowly, painfully, the massive slab of stone began to shift. A deep, guttural groan rumbled through the walls, dust cascading from above as the ancient seal cracked. The traveler had awakened something. And now, it was no longer trapped. The reckoning. A deep, shuddering crack splintered through the chamber, sending tremors up the traveler's spine. The stone door, which had remained sealed for centuries, groaned as unseen hands pushed from within. Dust spiraled in the air, thick and suffocating, as the ancient passage breathed again. The traveler stumbled backward, his instincts screaming at him to flee. But his feet were rooted to the cold stone, his body paralyzed by something beyond fear, a primal knowing. The wall had never been built to keep enemies out. It had been built to keep something in. And now, he had broken the seal. The awakening. The whisper returned, 1,000 voices woven into one. You were warned. A shadow spilled from the widening crack, thick as ink, twisting and writhing like something alive. It stretched across the chamber, slithering up the walls, its tendrils reaching for him. The air turned frigid, his breath visible in the suffocating dark. His mind reeled. What had he unleashed? The weight of history crashed upon him. Wei Lian's disappearance, the lost souls buried in the wall, the whispers that had never truly faded. He had read the old texts, the ones hidden in forbidden archives. The wall was not just stone and mortar. It had been fed with blood, strengthened with sacrifice, its foundation built upon the lives of those who had vanished. And now, with the seal broken, the wall was giving them back. The choice. From the darkness, figures began to emerge. Not men, not ghosts, but something in between. Their eyes were hollow, their forms twisted, their voices the same whispers that had haunted the wind for centuries. "Restore the seal," they murmured, "or be consumed." His pulse thundered. He looked to the crumbling stone door, then to the scroll clenched in his hand, the ancient script the only key to binding the wall's prison once more. But the darkness was spreading. The longer he hesitated, the more it pushed beyond the chamber, reaching for the world beyond. He had come seeking answers. Instead, he had found a curse. With a final, shuddering breath, the traveler stepped forward. He pressed his palm to the door, feeling the energy beneath it, a heartbeat that did not belong to any living thing. And he began to read. The price of knowledge. The moment the first word left his lips, the chamber roared to life. The walls trembled, the darkness screamed, recoiling as the script ignited with a light unseen for centuries. The figures, the lost souls of the wall, lifted their hollow eyes, their forms flickering like dying embers. The traveler continued, his voice steady despite the terror clawing at his throat. The door shuddered, its cracks beginning to close. The darkness fought back, surging toward him, clawing at his limbs. It did not want to be locked away again. With a final, desperate breath, he spoke the last word. A blinding flash. A silence so absolute it felt like the world had stopped. And then, nothing. The legacy of the wall. Dawn broke over the great wall, its ancient stones bathed in golden light. There was no sign of the traveler. No passage, no door, no chamber beneath the wall. Only silence. And yet, as the wind swept across the endless stretch of stone, it carried a whisper. The wall remembers.